Make sure I look good here. Hey guys, what's up? All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Reformed Youth Guy podcast. I'm your Reformed Youth Guy, Christian. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about a really difficult topic. It may not be too long of an episode, but it's still, I think, good for us to talk about. And you also may notice that my office looks a little bit different. It's because it kind of is. Not the office itself. But I had a guy in our church so graciously hook me up with this beautiful executive-looking desk, and I feel very, very official now. This is a feeling that for all of you youth directors, youth pastors, youth leaders out there, you know it doesn't come around often. So when it does, you really appreciate it. So I'm feeling very official. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get into today's episode. All right, guys, let's talk about, I think, a sensitive topic, but a difficult topic. It's something that I think we all experience, not just once, not just twice, but often, actually. If you are going to be committed to student and youth work and ministry, listen, this is a reality, and this is something that we're going to have to deal with, consistently throughout the time of us serving. I've been in youth work and ministry now for going on 15 years. And I have personally felt this at every church that I've been at multiple times in multiple ways, and it never gets easier. But let me give you 3 tips on how to handle the frustration of uninvolved families in your youth ministry. Because this is, again, a reality. This happened to me very recently. There were 2 families and that they're members of our congregation, and they have multiple kids that are age appropriate for our student ministry, but yet are uninvolved. Sometimes they attend our Sunday school, which is great, but even that's sort of rare. And so I went out of my way in different ways to try to connect with them, meet with them. And eventually I just emailed both of these families and said, hey guys, I just would love so much to see your kids in youth group. One family didn't respond at all. They just straight ghosted me. And another family said, our kids are not interested. And I got to be honest, that email was just a hard one to take. But let me give you 3 things to keep in mind when dealing with the frustration of uninvolved families. Number 1, don't take it personal. 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with you. Now, let me just give maybe a point of clarification here. There's a slim chance that it might, but I wouldn't put too much focus or thought, concern into that basket just yet. I think that, yes, we should, see and maybe take an honest examination of what it is we're doing as a student ministry that may be, turning people away. But for the most part, like I said, 9 out of 10 times, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with the student ministry. A lot of times it just has to do with the family. We live in the time and the age where families are busy for busy's sake. And that means that they're bogged down with 2 9-to-5 jobs, school for the kids, sometimes even school for the parents at night, extracurriculars, baseball, football, soccer. We live in the Northeast, so hockey, lacrosse, track and field, choir, jazz band, jazzercise, baton, ballet.
On with it. Yes, get on with it. Oh, anyway.
Like you name it. Like there's so many things that keep our kids occupied and busy, and oftentimes the church is just not a priority outside of the Sunday service. Let me just say that. I think the Sunday service, of course, the Lord's Day worship, that's essential. If you have a family that's not participating in that and are members, that's an issue for the session and the elders of your church to handle. That's not what we're talking about. Because, youth group is not, it's not the Sunday service. So there's, it's not as high of a priority as the Lord's Day, but it's still, I know as youth pastors and youth directors, we feel like it should be a priority. And I think it is a healthy thing for families to have their children involved in the youth programs of the church. But some families don't see it that way. So again, don't take it personal. 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with you. Now, what if it does? What if it does have something to do with you? What if it is that 1 time out of 10 that it's you? Well, again, it may not exactly be you. It may not be like your personality or anything. It may just be that their family doesn't care much for, their kids, I should say, don't really care for the style of youth ministry you're doing. But again, you can't create an entire youth program that's individual to each student. You need to be faithful to the Word of God, and you need to take, your personal assessment of where your youth are at and develop a program that speaks to the needs of the teenagers that you have. That's what you have to do. Point number 2, don't give up on that student. Now listen, I think it's really easy for us once we get that hard no, just like our natural probably reaction is, well, who cares about them? But don't do that, okay? You are still the youth minister, youth director, youth pastor, whatever your title is at your church. It's still your job to minister to that family. So still continue to find ways to engage, connect. If they're really involved in sports, go to a sports thing. Still show them that you love them and you want to minister to their family. Again, just because they don't come to your youth group doesn't mean they're still not a part of the body of Christ and they're still not there for you to minister to. So don't take their no as a white flag to say, I no longer am concerned about you because you don't care about me. That's the wrong attitude to have. Take the high road. Love on that family, continue to engage in that family, and also continue to invite them to youth group. Now, again, you don't have to do this by constantly like emailing, texting, and it's always saying, hey, come to youth group. But it's, throw it out every once in a while. Be like, hey, I really enjoyed watching your game tonight. We'd love to have you in youth group sometime. You right? Or even better, find things that are not necessarily youth group, like a function or event that students may want to come to, something that's fun, and get them engaged. If you get them connected with the students in the group, oftentimes what happens, the way you pull them in, is not from you asking them, but it's from them actually making connections and relationships with the students within the group. So don't give up on that student. And number 3, probably the most important here, don't forget the other students.
Where did you come from?
I think, again, oftentimes our reaction is to constantly hyper-focus on this one student or these couple of students and forget the ones that are in the seats. This is sort of the equivalent to the pastor that gets up on Sundays and, as we would say, shear the sheep and complain and fuss and bicker about how nobody ever comes to your youth group, nobody ever gets excited, the whole world is against your youth ministry and nobody cares. And meanwhile, you're doing all this crying and complaining, to put it very nicely. You have students that are there faithfully every week. It may not be a lot, but they're faithful. Love on those students. Invest in those students. Those are the ones that want to be there. So they should be the priority. It shouldn't be the students that don't want to be there that constantly take up your time and effort. You're called to faithfully teach, disciple, and engage with the students that God has given you. And so don't give up on the students that are there. So again, let me just recap. Number 1, don't take it personally, because again, 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with you. Number 2, don't give up on the students that don't want to come, because you may eventually win them over. And most importantly, number 3, don't forget the students that you have. I think these 3 points would be helpful to anybody that's experiencing this frustration. It is frustrating. I personally have gone through this even recently, where we had 2 families in our church with a number of students that are appropriate age for our youth group that are just not engaged. And it's difficult. I sent 2 emails to both of these families basically saying the same thing. And one family just totally ghosted me, yet I still see them on Sundays. And then the other family just said, our kids don't want to come. I mean, point blank, blunt, just they're not interested, I think was the exact words. They're not interested in youth group. And man, that really, really hurt and was frustrating. And it's, because we love our students and we love our young people and we want them to be plugged in, because we see the value in youth ministry. And sometimes part of our jobs is getting other people to see that value so that they will plug in and buy in to what's going on in the church. So I think if you keep these 3 things in mind, I think you can save yourself a lot of heartache and time over the years, because the Lord's going to bless you and give you lots of years in student ministry, over the years of student ministry, and if the Lord moves you into other forms of ministry. These are the types of things we deal with all the time. And these are, I think, 3 helpful tips for it. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the Reformed Youth Guy podcast. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify. And we appreciate you guys so much. Let us know on either format what you guys think about the podcast so far. What are some things you think we should talk about? Maybe some questions you have that hopefully we can bring some light to. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time here on the Reformed Youth Guy podcast. See ya. Maybe I'll have to do an episode like a old school MTV Cribs. Like, that's a good idea.